Hi, this is Bishop Craig in Lansing. This is take one for the week of November 20. Peace be with you. I have a number of Zoom appointments the early part of this week that has me all dressed up. So last week I was in Region 8 for the beginning of the week. Region 8 consists of 4 synods in Pennsylvania, the Metro DC Synod, the Delaware Maryland Synod, and the West Virginia Western Maryland Synod. I was there Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for First Call Theological Education. I was the keynote speaker. And then Wednesday to Friday, I was in West Virginia for that synod's rostered leader event, rostered minister event. So in the course of the week, I delivered 6 lectures, led 2 workshops, and preached twice, all from the book, My Burden is Light, Making Room for Jesus in Preaching, which is available to our rostered ministers. Wanted to say thanks to the Synod Council for supporting my teaching vocation. I came to this office as a teaching theologian. I do this when I can, help the church think and talk about preaching, while other bishops fly in and out of Chicago for meetings. So I think I'm getting the better deal. So it was an exhausting week, and it is good to be back. It really is good to be back. This week I have, as I say, Zoom appointments on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Thursday is Thanksgiving. And please watch for my Thanksgiving message, which you should receive by email. And on Sunday, we start Advent. And this Sunday's readings remind us that Advent is not only about getting ready for the Christ who will be born at Christmas, but anticipating Jesus' return, the second coming, when in the creeds, Jesus will judge the living and the dead, when Christ will fulfill all things all in all. The good news on the first Sunday in Advent, as far as I'm concerned, is always that it is Jesus who is coming. And in Matthew's gospel, Jesus is God with us. So Jesus, God with us, not Jesus, God against us, is the God that will come in the culmination and fulfillment of history. The reading tells us several things about Jesus coming. And, so I thought of, 4 images that I'm reflecting on. Jesus says that no one knows the hour, not the angels in heaven, not the Son, but only the Father. And boy, we spend a lot of time trying to predicting the hour. And we can't. We don't know when Jesus will come. But Jesus says that he will come, the Son of Humanity will come like a thief in the night, and says that if the householder would have known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have allowed the house to be broken into. And so Jesus says the time of Jesus coming will come like a thief in the night. And so Jesus, I think, is calling us to be vigilant. I'm remembering how vigilant we were after the attacks on the World Trade Center in New York. I'm remembering how vigilant we were when the pandemic was at its worst. We know how to be vigilant, but we get laxed. We let our guard down, and that's when we get surprised. So we can expect Jesus to come unexpectedly, and you say, well, he's not come yet. Jesus coming to the world may be delayed, but Jesus coming to us, the moment when we meet Jesus and Jesus meets us, can come very quickly as a cancer diagnosis, or as quickly as gunfire in a nightclub or at a school. So the moment that Jesus comes to us could come very, very quickly, like a thief in the night. So Jesus invites us to be vigilant. Jesus also talks about the days of Noah and talks about the days in the flood. And I'm thinking of tsunamis. I'm thinking of hurricanes. I'm thinking of snowstorms. And how quickly the destruction comes even when we have time to prepare. So the flood would say that the coming of Jesus will be like a natural disaster and kind of turn our world upside down. So there's another image we can think about for Advent. The days of the flood also makes it sound like, I always had this notion that they had like days while it rained, but if it's like a tsunami, the flood could come quickly, and that people were living their normal lives. And that's what will happen when Jesus comes. And then the last thing in this reading is, this talk of 2 will be in the mill, 1 will be taken, 1 will be left behind, 2 will be in the field, 1 will be taken, 1 will be left behind. And we've got this whole left behind cottage industry thing. And, as you look at the world, who wouldn't want to be swept up into the heavens and, in a divided lifeboat if the flood is coming? But elsewhere in Matthew's gospel, to be left behind is better, because to be, taken up or plucked up, you end up in the fire. So here we need to remember that Jesus is God with us, not against us. And if Jesus is coming to be with us in the world, Jesus is not going to lift us up or pluck us out of the world. So the rapture might be a fun thing to think about. But I don't know how biblically based it truly is. Just my opinion. So anyway, all of this is to say that Jesus is coming and that we will be living our ordinary lives. So preparing for Jesus' second coming is different than preparing for Christmas, where we do special stuff. Preparing for Jesus' coming is living our everyday lives in the awareness that Jesus comes, and that we are followers of Jesus, that we are claimed by Christ, and that we are his disciples. So the best way to prepare for Jesus to come, whether it is at the hour of our death or at the hour that will end the world as we know it, time as we know it, history as we know it, the best way to prepare for Jesus' death is to live every hour as Jesus' disciple, follower, as a beloved child of God, and to regard God and one another, God and neighbor, from that perspective. And if we do that, then the last hour becomes like every other hour. We know this, and we do it for a time, and then we get laxed, we get lazy, we get routine, and that's why Advent is a gift. Advent is a season that invites us to renew our commitment and awareness to live knowing that Jesus is coming. So, some thoughts for Advent and this first Sunday. Pray for 2 congregations this week. Messiah and Constantine has contracted with Pastor Tom Pedersen for a year, so they will be together as pastor and people for all of 2023. We give thanks for that relationship. St. John's in Hagensville near Rogers City on November 13 took its second vote to disaffiliate from the ELCA. So St. John's in Hagensville no longer is an ELCA church, and then it is my understanding that they immediately voted to close. So what that means is St. John's has safeguarded that the synod and the bishop do not get their building and their assets by the vote they took. That's on the one hand. And on the other hand, because they are no longer an ELCA church, the synod and the bishop have no responsibility to help them to close and dispose of their building and assets. We are living in interesting times, and finding partnerships, contracts rather than calls. We're seeing that more in the synod and in the church, and congregations voting to close, I think, is going to become more common. So for the church as well as for the individual, The good news is that Christ comes. Even in the hour of a closure of a church, Christ comes, and we can live in the awareness that Christ comes as we do the work of being a church, and as we regard God and one another. Have a happy Thanksgiving, please. Take some time to be thankful. And please watch for my Thanksgiving message, which comes out Thanksgiving Day. This is Bishop Craig. This is Take One. May the peace of Christ be with you always. Take care.